you so much for joining us today for our psychology and neuroscience session for Premier. And we're going to go ahead and get started.
Well, thank you, Gabby. Welcome all. My name is Hugh Riley, and I'm a senior lecturer in the Department of Psychology and Neuroscience, and also have the privilege of serving as its undergraduate program director. And welcome to Spring Premier 2022 and the Department of Psychology Neuroscience presentation. I'm joined this morning by three of our student ambassadors. Student ambassadors are junior and senior level students who have excelled in our program, and they act as a liaison between the faculty and current students as well as prospective students. And they do a host of other activities, including tutoring, advising, and other activities. Would you each like to say a word and say hello?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Paige Freeberg. I'm a senior BA with psychology.
Hi everyone, I'm Elkin Badebo. I'm a junior neuroscience major.
Hi everyone, I'm Sanjana Ade, and I'm a junior neuroscience major as well.
Folks, the student ambassadors are going to be monitoring the chat session. So while I'm presenting these slides, if you have questions for them about our program or about their experience in it, please don't hesitate to address those questions to them. You can see here their images as well as some information about them. As we see, Paige is looking for employment after graduation from Baylor. Elkin is looking to go to medical school, and Sanjana is looking to go to law school. And our program is quite successful in getting students into each of those different postgraduate opportunities. This slide simply reflects the fact that we're a very large and one of the, if not the fastest growing major on the campus. We are in fact the second largest major on the campus. Biology has a couple more hundred students than we do. We offer degrees in both psychology and neuroscience. In the neuroscience world, only a Bachelor of Science. In the psychology world, a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science. We do not offer a minor in either one. We have about 1,000 students that will relatively evenly split between neuroscience and psychology. What people do with after graduation: medical school, dental school, and of course, with respect to Sanjana, also law school, and then of course, graduate school as well. Clinical laboratory work, research experience, and research lab technician work is how we find gainful employment after this program. About 80% of our neuroscience majors are in some kind of a postgraduate opportunity within 3 years after graduation from Baylor, and about 60% of our psych students are in those same kind of opportunities within 3 years after their graduation. Baylor prides itself on preparing students for worldwide leadership in a variety of different opportunities, and we're quite successful accomplishing that goal. When students come into our program, they come in as what we call a pre-psychology or a pre-neuroscience major. The reason for this is we want to make sure they're going to be academically successful in those disciplines. And I, as the undergraduate program director, along with my assistant chair and our chair, at the end of each semester for the fall, spring, and summer, we review students and identify those who should, in fact, be promoted from the pre-major designation into the major itself. And as you can see, here are the criteria for pre-psychology students. They have to take these courses and accomplish these grades in order to move on. So additional coursework, as you can see on this slide. So psychological science or Introduction to Psychology, Psychology 1305, Introduction to Neuroscience and Statistics, and then a calculus for the BS pre-psych students. And as you can see, grade point averages for the BA and BS program are just a little bit different from each other, and grades of C or better in the asterisk courses. For our pre-neuroscience students, these are the courses they need to take. And continuing on, Introduction to Neuroscience Lab, Psychological Science, Calculus, grade of B or better in our Introduction to Neuroscience 1306 course, and the GPA within 40 hours in order to be promoted into the major itself. So as I mentioned a moment ago, I'm the one who, in conjunction with some of my senior colleagues, are the ones who evaluate students for that promotion opportunity. And if they fail to meet that, then they can't complete or continue in the major, but it's not punitive. We're simply trying to find them an academic home where they in fact can be successful. Other classes that students take within their respective majors are listed on this particular slide. And for the neuroscience students. We are joined by university colleagues with respect to advisement. The university prides itself that students are carefully mentored and guided along their academic pathways through advising. The University Advisement Office, as well as the College of Arts and Science Advising Office and the Pre-Health Advising serve those roles. But within the department, one of my colleagues, Dr. Karina Malavante, make sure that juniors and seniors in the neuroscience world are properly advised, and Dr. Tamara Lawrence does so in the psychology world. And as I mentioned before, our student ambassadors have excelled in our program. They have a great deal of experience in our courses, and a lot of our prospective students turn to them for their advice about their advisement and which courses they should register for at what time and so on. We have a lot of research opportunities within the department. This slide lists some of them, and the individuals that are the primary research faculty member for those various labs. I would encourage you to visit our departmental website, which you'll see the website URL address at the end of this presentation, to investigate other research opportunities, or to investigate these particular labs, or to communicate with these professors if you have an interest in their particular work. There's a lot of outside the department research opportunities for Baylor students, as illustrated by this slide. So URSA is the Undergraduate Research and Scholarly Achievement Program. BURST is another separate program, the Baylor Undergraduate Research in Science and Technology. BTRU is yet another. And then the McNair Scholars Program is for specific populations that are underrepresented in order to make sure that they're more equitably represented. So as I mentioned, there's a website for our department. It's listed, the URL for it is listed on this particular slide. You can get further information about our degree requirements, about frequently asked questions, about that research that our faculty engaged in, and our strong commitment and statement to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So at this point, I'm happy to entertain any questions that you may have for me, or to allow our student ambassadors to add anything to the presentation, or to address any questions you may have for them. I'm looking at a web chat question. And the question is, for a student interested in the pre-med track, are the pre-health advising opportunities similar to the one offered by the pre-health major? Pre-health is not really a major, it's a designation. Our Office of Pre-Health Studies, under the direction of Dr. Rich Sanker, is extraordinarily successful getting students into medical school, dental school, or physician assistant, or other health-related programs. Yes, the advising opportunities align very nicely with that pre-health office activities. I'm seeing another question about transfer credits from high school. As mentioned on one of the other slides, you can transfer in these credits. They are used for graduation, but not necessarily for the pre-health, or I'm sorry, for the pre-promotion activities. My own personal opinion on transfer credits is if it's outside your major, then yes, absolutely. Whether it's AP credit, dual credit, or community college courses, it's simply going to reduce the amount of time and therefore expense it takes to graduate from any university, Baylor included. However, if it's a transfer credit within your major, then I suggest some degree of thoughtful consideration and thought. And there's 4 reasons for that. One, if you took the course in high school or at a community college, but it wasn't a rigorous course and it's an introduction course, you have to understand that those courses serve as the foundation for follow-on classes. And you don't want to struggle or compromise your grade point average if you're not well prepared for those follow-on classes. The second reason to exercise some prudent consideration or thought is it's not a bad idea to have a course in your schedule that at least theoretically you're not going to have to put as much time and effort into in order to do well in it. The third reason is that use professors that teach the introduction courses oftentimes teach the follow-on classes as well. So having some familiarity with how they teach and how they test will help better prepare you for those follow-on classes. And then the fourth and final reason for exercising caution, or at least consideration, is that at some point you're going to want perhaps to work in someone's lab, or you're going to want to work or get a letter of recommendation rather from some of these professors. And the more experience they have within the classroom, the better position they are to write that strong competitive letter of recommendation for you. As far as I'm seeing another question about what kind of classes should you take in high school to help better prepare you for college. Ones that are rigorous, ones that demand something from you, ones that require some adjustment in time management study strategies rather than superficial kind of exposure or requirements. Those are the kind of classes you want to take. I'm seeing another question that says, would I have to switch from health science studies in order to major in psychology? Is it faculty of science? I'm an incoming freshman. Again, the health science pre-health office, they facilitate students that are interested in health-related careers and professions like medical school, dental school, physician assistant, and physical, respiratory, and occupational therapy programs, and so on. It's not really a major, it's a designation. When you identify yourself as pre-med or pre-dental, you're going to connect to those people automatically, and they're going to reach out and help you identify the requirements for successful admission into those various programs. I see another question, is AP chemistry helpful for preparing for psychology? Again, any course that requires some level of deeper comprehension and involvement, time management and study strategies is going to be helpful in any college course. Our program is included. Do we tie religion into our teachings? Baylor is in fact a Christian affiliated university. Unapologetically, we are devout Christians, and we try to bring faith and a faith spiritual component into our environment. For example, Baylor professors pride themselves not being on just teachers, but rather mentors, helping students reach their full intellectual and therefore occupational potential. Most professors also have open door policies. We like students, we want to interact with students, but no, we do not push a particular religious agenda or a particular religious perspective on students. And we're highly respectful of students' own religious beliefs. I see another question about when do you start meeting with your academic advisor, and the answer is right after you enroll. So they're very proactive and very involved in reaching out to students to make sure that they're accurately and adequately advised. I see another question asking about a sports psychology program or something similar. No, we do not have a concentration in sports psychology. Those kind of activities, whether it's industrial, organizational, or sports psychology, or other forms of therapeutic intervention, those are usually done at the graduate level and not at the undergraduate level. I see another question, does choosing psychology versus neuroscience mean different pathways in those first 2 years? Yes, to some extent it does. However, as you saw also in that previous slide, a lot of the courses are in fact common for both majors. And then a number of our courses are cross-listed as well. I'm seeing another question: is the neuroscience major successful getting into the pre-med program? It was specifically designed to accomplish all of the prerequisites that medical schools typically require. And our neuroscience students are incredibly successful getting into medical school. I'm a parent of a neuroscience student who followed in her mother's footsteps. My wife is a board certified fellow in the American Academy of Pediatrics. And our oldest daughter decided to follow her mother into medicine. And she, in fact, was a neuroscience major at Baylor and ended up in every single, or accepted in every single medical school in Texas. I see another question about psychiatry and whether or not psychology or neuroscience is more helpful for that. The answer is either one. Medical schools, long ago, really most students that applied to medical school at the time my wife went to medical school, she graduated from medical school in 1982, were either biology or chemistry majors. But in the decades since, medical schools opened their doors to anyone, regardless of their undergraduate major. So we have students at Baylor that are majoring in business, in music, and they're pre-med. So as long as they have the grade point average, as long as they have a competitive score on the medical college aptitude test, as long as they have some of the prerequisites that medical schools require, a year chemistry, a year physics, a year biology, calculus, and so on, and also things like research experience, community service, competitive letter of recommendation, then in fact, they usually find successful admission to medical school. I see another question about AP courses. Yes, anything that's rigorous, anything that demands a little more from you is going to help better prepare you for the college environment. I see some of my essay colleagues are in fact addressing some of these chat questions as well, and I thank you for that. I'm seeing a question about grades and how they affect promotion or graduation requirements. At Baylor, you have to make a C or better in courses within your major in order to be able to graduate. I'm seeing a question: how do you decide whether you want to be a psych or neuroscience major? That's a really important and somewhat difficult question. Each individual is different. God bestowed all of us with unique individual talents. It's really important, I think, to consider the lifestyle of these different occupations and to do the thing that fits you the best, your personality, your intellectual gifts, the way that you would like your life to take its own direction. I see a question about how do you prepare for the MCAT? There are a number of tutorial programs for MCAT preparation. Our AMSA program, the American Medical Student Association, provides some of those, but there are other commercial programs, and there's lots and lots and lots of practice MCAT tests that can help better prepare you for competitive performance on that exam. And it's really important to do well in that exam, because that, in combination with your GPA and the other criteria that I listed, are the determining factors about successful admission in a medical school. And of course, Elkin is a pre-med major, so he can address that question from his own personal perspective.
Yeah, so there are a number of organizations here on campus that are tailored towards pre-health and pre-med success. So I'm actually on the exec board of one of them, and we have like MCAT scholarships, MCAT programs, and all that stuff that will help you just get down and know how to study. And plus, our culture and community here is really inclusive and supportive, that like even if you're not part of an organization, a lot of students will be taking the MCATs around the same time. So they'll be able to help you out and give you success tips and all of that.
I see a question about what kind of career paths do people pursue for psych and neuroscience? Psychology is the scientific study of human behavior. So anyone that has an insight into what motivates or influences human behavior is going to be better prepared for things like sales or marketing or human resource management or teachers or counselors and so on. And of course, the neuroscience world is the scientific study of the biochemistry and neurophysiology of the brain that mediates that behavior. So both disciplines are well suited for all kinds of service and medical and health related fields, as well as business fields. I'm seeing a question about scholarships specific to the department. Baylor does an incredible amount of tuition assistance and scholarship for students, but it's all done at the university level and typically based on the student's high school record, their GPA, their class standing, their SAT, ACT scores, and so on. We have a few, like 1 or 2 or 3 very small scholarships within the department, but those are for juniors and seniors. And they're very small. So Baylor, most people at Baylor get some kind of tuition assistance or scholarship reduction or scholarship opportunities. But it's all done at the university level. I'm seeing a question, is neuroscience a good major for those intending to become a neurosurgeon? Yes, absolutely. Most of our neuroscience students, when I communicate with them after they've arrived at medical school, they indicate to me that our neuroscience program well prepared them for their neuroscience courses at medical school. I'm seeing a question about what's the percent of undergraduates going into medical colleges. Our Department of Health pre-health studies can boast an incredible successful admission rate in the medical school compared to other Texas schools. And it's, again, under the direction of Dr. Rich Sanker, who does just a phenomenal job mentoring these students and making them aware of those requirements.
Yeah, I believe Jorge had a question for the student ambassadors about how he described the experience of obtaining our degrees and all. I'd say it's really fun. It's a rigorous degree path nonetheless, but you take some really interesting classes, you get to meet some interesting people, and all of our professors, with Dr. Riley included, have some of the most interesting lives and are incredibly smart in their respective fields. So it's really like a great and rewarding experience. I'm sure Paige and Sanjana can also talk about that.
I'm seeing a question in the chat about is psychology a great major for pre-law? In fact, my brother is a lawyer in Houston, and although he did not major in psychology, he personally believes that it's a great major for law students and lawyers because it is involved in things like persuasion, communication, understanding human behavior. He reads nothing but psych sorts of literature. I'm seeing another question about psychological disorders. Should you choose psychology or neuroscience as your major? Psychology disorders or psychopathology, is a problem in our country because we're a very competitive society, and therefore there's a lot of stress, and a lot of people are vulnerable to those stress influences. It really doesn't matter whether you major in psychology or neuroscience if you want to pursue some kind of a career field in psychopathology. Either one is going to position you well to understand those graduate level opportunities. What major would somebody benefit most from if they want to be a psychiatrist? Psychiatry is one of those post-medical school residency programs. So if someone's a clinical psychologist, they did not go to medical school. They have what's called a PsyD degree. It's a postgraduate opportunity. Those programs are 3 years long plus a 1-year internship. If somebody identifies themselves as a psychiatrist, it tells you right off the bat that they are in fact a medical doctor, that they went to medical school, and then they went to a psychiatric residency program. I'm seeing a question, does our majors provide less room for school life balance? I would not characterize it that way, but I would let our essay certainly address that question individually. Nonetheless, college is different from high school, and it typically does require some changes in time management and study strategies in order to do as well in college as you did in high school. On the other hand, it's important not to study 24/7, but rather to balance your academic, your social, and your recreational lives. If the essays have additional comments on that, please don't hesitate to address it.
Yeah, so a lot of the college experience is as easy or as hard as you make it. So it's largely dependent on how you study and how you study efficiently, right? Because the people who study 8 hours a day might get A's, but they might not be efficient as somebody who studies 2 hours a day and still gets the same grades, right? And then it's also dependent on what clubs and extracurriculars you're a part of. So it's typically recommended that if you are interested in joining extracurriculars, you typically should just join at maximum 2 that you can like really pour all your heart and soul into, because once you start getting above that, you start spreading your time a little bit thin. And then that's when like life becomes a struggle of handling academics, which are still rigorous, and handling your extracurriculars. So it's all about like how you manage your time and what you like to do and how you like to spread your time out. But if Paige and Sanjana have anything to add.
Going to college is a growth and development experience, and it's important to balance all aspects of your life in combination with your academic performance.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for joining us for our psychology and neuroscience session for Baylor Premier. We hope that you gained a lot of awesome information. I know I did. Always a pleasure to learn more about our majors. And we're going to go ahead and end this webinar so you can zoom over to our next session starting at 11:30. We hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank y'all so much.
Gabby and essays, thank you so much from my perspective as well. You guys have a wonderful weekend.